Yo, what's up, Jim? It's me, Jason from Breakdown Fitness. I went home that one night from you asking me for your assistance, and I did a little bit of homework, and I found out what those two little internal rotators were. And the first two that kind of comes to my mind is the gracilis muscle and the pectineus muscle. And those are those little kind of helper muscles to the adductor brevis that helps to kind of medially rotate our femur and produces adduction and internal rotation. So there's this stretch that I actually kind of run through with a lot of people in this certain with these certain kind of pains coming from those muscles due to maybe a possible internal impingement issue. And then again, these strains come along, just through lots of different things. People run through big time series of squats, a lot of adduction, abduction type of movements, and again, these things just kind of tweak us, even out of the blue, picking something out from the car. But anyways, long story short, the stretch I'm going to show you, again, you might be able to say to yourself, well, I can kind of tweak the stretch a little bit, maybe do a butterfly stretch to kind of get these same ideas. But in my history, I haven't quite found any other movement to be more specific to those two muscles than this one here. So I'm going to run us through the stretch, and there's going to be a lot of cues going on that I really want you to really pay attention to make sure that we can keep those muscles in perfect tension and we can get them, really specifically, at their most lengthened state. So be very, very, very keen to kind of always running through these specific cues in your head so we can target those muscles specifically, and we're also end up, targeting all these other, semitendinosus muscles in the adductor brevis, but we really want these internal rotators, these real secondary adductor muscles to really come into the picture. So we got our chair, all right? I want you to grab something that you can kind of get down and rest your elbows on, which I'm going to show you, and it's going to help make this stretch a lot more forgiving, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're basically taking ourselves into just a simple movement of a big side lunge. But again, it's all about the details, all right? It's not about the stretch itself, it's about how we approach it and apply it. So, long story short, we're going to get this wide base, almost kind of like we're starting to do the splits a little bit, all right? Just enough to open up these hips a little bit, all right? And I'm going to start first with my left hip and try and target, the gracilis and the pectineus muscle. So the first thing I'm going to do, again, to make myself as kind of weightless as possible so I can kind of run through these nice, easy, progressive movements to, again, desensitize those Golgi tendon organs, the guys that tend to kind of keep us tight, inhibit us from stretching as a reflex mechanism to protect ourselves. So long story short, all right, I'm going to get myself in this kind of spread position, and I have to be very, very specific that my toes are pointed dead ahead. Dead ahead. Let nothing open up, because again, as soon as those toes move out, and again, we externally rotate that hip a little bit, those muscles really come out of the picture, and then again, those lengthened intentions aren't going to apply worth the diddly squat. So, toes are 100% forward. Now, during the time of the stretch, I'm never going to let either of my feet come off the ground. So always establish a very good arch in your foot to keep, again, your heel planted and your big toe planted, all right? So this, again, if we keep this solid kind of flat foot, big arch, toe down, heel down, we're always going to be very, very specific to keeping this very neutral hip alignment so we can target these really internally rotated adductor muscles. So basically, I'm going to kind of bring myself into the side lunge, and this is something I have trouble with myself, so this is going to take a second, and I'm going to get myself fully into the stretch just to show you kind of the time it takes to get there. But again, it should take about 5 or so minutes. So anyways, I'm going to start to get myself in this lean. I'm going to keep, again, this foot really planted. Pay attention to that big toe as I start to bring myself down. And now here's the point where I get a little tight, and I'm resting my elbows up on this chair. I'm going to take my time now to get myself to that big stretch signal, keeping that big toe and heel really planted, kind of pushing it into the ground. And once I hit the stretch point, I am going to start to engage on this internal rotation. So I'm going to do one of two things first. I'm going to start to, once I hit this kind of stretch point, I'm going to start to now turn my hips away from my left foot, creating this little internal rotation. And I'm going to keep this kind of kneading type of sensation kind of coming through, twisting that hip inward, always keeping these feet planted in the kind of toe forward position, gripping onto the ground with that left foot as I'm turning, as I'm loosening up these internal rotators, which are those two muscles. Now you're going to notice with every little twist, I'm going to be able to come down a little bit further. Now, I want you to shuffle between these two ideas of internally rotating that hip through big time abduction, okay? And then once we knead out through a little bit, now I want you again to get yourself realigned, get neutral again, so you're pointed dead ahead with your hips. And now as you press down, you're going to work on pressing your knee all the way back. So trying to get full knee extension now. Again, as we're forcing these internal rotators, these adductors to open up even more. So now we're just going to keep the same process going on of internally rotating a few rounds. So again, we can loosen that up and drop a little bit lower. And then we're going to work on pushing that knee back, activating those glutes and quads at the same time. So again, I got to try and flex my butt and flex my quad. So I'm pushing my hip forward as I'm driving my knee back. And I'm going to be able to get a little bit further and further with each little round until I'm all the way down here and this foot is still staying planted, because we don't want to cheat ourselves and let that foot kind of pick up and we'll lose that tension. Till we're all the way down, we're going to keep twisting until we're at the base of that movement, okay? Then when you're done, stand yourself back up, all right? And then again, move your chair to the other side. Because again, by stretching the other hip, we're going to work on that same complex, all right, with the same foot, but now as we're externally rotating that hip. So we're going to move ourselves right on over. We're going to repeat that same idea. Now, the thing that we're going to think about the hip going into flexion rather than extension is, again, trying to create these external rotative forces, maintaining a good arches, okay? And here's step number 2. As I bring myself in these same factors, same thing I'm going to promote with this leg, okay? Again, toes forward, big arch, toe heel down. I'm going to be dropping myself down, resting my elbows, so again, I can put the right amount of weight to find that perfect tension to allow everything to desensitize. I'm going to be kind of torquing my hip, toes forward, torquing my hip out to the side, driving myself out, not letting my toe turn out. And again, I'm going to be opening up into this big abduction here. And we're going to use this arm to kind of bring yourself to the base of this foot and make sure that this knee does not crumble inward as I'm pushing myself out to this big side lunge. So, I'm opened up here, I'm bringing myself down, and the one thing that you're going to be able to see is this is going to stay flat, this arm's going to come down, and I'm going to try and drop myself down, keeping this flat, making sure that this arch is maintained, and now this knee here, okay, opens up, and I get to fall down in between that sucker. Again, that gracilis muscle, that pectineus muscle that was way up in here, is that main factor to, again, rotate that knee to the outside of that arm. Again, so now we're expressing full internal rotation, external rotation, deep up in that hip expressing abduction. Okay, so again, we're falling down, and again, I'm going to try and press my butt down in my heel as I'm coming down, trying to maintain that foot up on the right side now. As I'm coming down, I'm trying to do these little press down, and make sure that knee stays out. So again, we get to target these big lengths coming from these adductors as we come into abduction as well. Okay, so hopefully those details are expressed fully when you're working through those stretches. And again, do these before your movements as a preparatory type of thing. And again, it's all about the consistency of these stretches to keep a consistent nature of the of keeping those Golgi tendon organs desensitized, so we can promote a longer resting length and again avoid a lot of these impingement issues, especially with those deep adductor internal rotative muscles. So hopefully that helps out.